You know, the human mind's a marvelous thing. It starts work the split second we're created and stops the moment you get up in front of 2,000 people to give a speech. I can't remember my own social security number now. But I didn't come here to give you a speech. I came here to sell you a very distinct idea, which has been the center of my life for the last 25 years, which I've put it into a philosophy called contagious health instead of contagious disease. And I've taken that philosophy and put it into a series of extraordinary formulas that which you can take to become what the Chinese taught me is health beyond disease, so that disease won't occur and you'll live your potential. You've all got the capacity, medically proven, to live to 120 years of age. That's what they've determined, that's within us. That's what God gave you, stamped on your DNA and your RNA, that you have that ability to live to that amount of time on this marvelous planet. Unfortunately, 99.9% of the world don't achieve that because they go out of their way to shorten their lifespan by doing unwitting things and taking things which are destroying the body instead of purifying it, building it up, and maintaining the extraordinary life force that we all get. 25 years ago, I wouldn't have known that I'd be standing here before you. I haven't always been in alternative medicine nor in nutrition. In fact, 25 years ago, I thought that was all mumbo-jumbo. The people who went to Woodstock did all that, and that was all something that was not necessary for me to do. I was a high-powered analyst working for the McKinsey Corporation in Southeast Asia, working for major corporations and also for various governments, solving very, very complex problems. I was the lead researcher for the Southeast Asian segment of the McKinsey Corporation, working in Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Malaysia, Australia, my place of birth, and in India. And I would go in as a team, a SWAT team, and we'd go in and we'd pull apart a company like a sardine company that was selling no sardines. And they'd come to McKinsey's and say, what do we do to rebuild our company? Or the Hong Kong government would come to us and say, we want to raise all this money for a new bond to be able to put in a new infrastructure of transport to the territory. How best do we do that? And I would sit down and analyse all the information, and the team would then take what my analysis was and go out there and put it together, and we were very, very successful. We had more business than we could handle. And all of a sudden, in the midst of it, I lost 3 of my very, very closest friends. One from open heart surgery, died on the operating table, and 2 others died of chemotherapeutic treatment for cancer. And these guys were very, very healthy. We were in a marathon team, and we ran very successfully. We dominated all the records in any country that we ran marathons in. And as they departed, all of a sudden, I started to lose an awful lot of blood, and I was in intense pain. Obviously, there was something very, very wrong. You didn't have to be a high-powered analyst to be able to work that out. So I went and had all these tests done, and one morning, around about 10 past 11, on a Tuesday morning, the phone call came in, and my secretary said, it's the Cancer Detection Clinic at St Vincent's Hospital here in Sydney, and they've got your results. And I spoke to the head research lady, and she said, oh, Mr. Garland, she said, your results are back. They're positive. I said, oh, whew. She said, oh, no, you missed the point. You tested positive. You better come in and see the doctor immediately. So I drove out to the St Vincent's Hospital, a big, ornate building in the centre of Sydney, and the doctor sat me down and he said, I've got some bad news. I said, there's no good news and bad news? He said, no. He said, we've done all the tests. He said, you've got 6 months to live. I said, no. 6 months. He said, there's nothing we can do for you. The cancer is spreading so quickly, it's a fire. And chemotherapy and radiation are not an alternative and won't work anyway. So, you get that, you can't believe what you're being told. It's like you're being in an accident and you're in shock. You can't compute anything at all. So this can't be true. I'm here at the peak of my powers, the top of my craft. I've got everything. And in 6 months I was going to go. I didn't know what the hell to do. I sat down with my father, who was dying at that time, ironically enough, and I sat down and I said, Dad, there's a chance that I might be slightly ahead of you in the line. He said, what do you mean? I said, they've told me I've got 6 months to live. In fact, it's 5 months, 2 weeks and 5 days since I was given that prognosis. My father was a war hero and was suffering dreadfully from the effects of war neuroses, and he was slipping away. And he turned to me, and he was a very sardonic guy. He was an English classics professor as well. And he said, don't worry. The threat of execution concentrates the mind wonderfully. He says, you're going to find something. I remember those words as if they were spoken just a split second ago. And I took off very, very quickly, because I sat down that night and I used the talents and the training that I had working for major corporations as a super analyst, and I decided to turn that talent upon myself and the disease. And if I was going to depart in 6 months, I was going to find out if there was an answer. Because deep down within me, there was a screaming voice that was saying, there is an answer out there, like the X-Files. The truth is out there. And so I sat down and I use a very interesting technique when I'm solving problems, in which I teach as well. It's called mind dynamics, with which you're able to link up to the entire intelligence of the universe. I was taught this. It's an extraordinary training. And I sat down and I'm able to see the problem and then call upon, whether it's the intelligence of this universe or your own instinct or something that is within us all, whether that's wisdom or instinct or intuition, and an answer will be given to you. And maybe that answer is only a little tiny clue, but you must follow that. And I used that whenever I was solving problems for major companies or governments, and I then used it upon myself. And I see, and when you're doing it, you have a great big screen appears in your mind as you go into a deep meditative state. This is not mumbo jumbo, it does work. And I saw 2 words, ash, ram. I didn't know what that meant. I asked again, I said, what does that mean? So I looked up ashram in the dictionary. So you go and look at that, and this is a healing retreat in India. Ha-ha. Very quickly on the path here. And I'm like Sherlock Holmes. I'm in the search for an answer. And I took off straight to India, because I'd also heard, when I told a couple of my friends who are doctors in Sydney, Australia, about this, said there are 2 amazing doctors in a town called Goa, on the Indian Ocean there, and these Dr. Neem and Dr. Ashwagandha, and they're curing people of cancer. How did you find this out? And I said, when I come back, I'll tell you. And I cashed all the stock that I had in the company. I set up a trust fund for my 2 daughters. I had enough money for 6 months and 1 day, and I had a round-the-world ticket and an American Express card. And I got a backpack and I took off to Goa. I got off the plane in Goa and I went straight to the Australian Embassy, and I said, give me the directory of all the doctors in this town. I want you to look up Dr. Neem and Dr. Ashwagandha, and I want to go and see them right now. Time's running out. And we went through the phone book, and lo and behold, there was no Dr. Neem. There was no Dr. Ashwagandha. I said, I got a bum steer here. How dare they do that to me? What you get taught is just wait, because someone's going to give you an answer. I went through that directory from A to Z. I got up to M, and I'm looking for a clue, and I got to a Dr. Muhammad. 2 months prior to that, I made a major presentation for the Ford Motor Company in Malaysia on success and how to achieve it. They had all their dealership, and they had all their salesmen there. And I hired Muhammad Ali to fly all the way from Berrien Springs in Michigan at his retreat to tell those people how to be successful in life. They didn't know who was going to speak. I just said as an invitation, come here, the most famous man in the world tells you how to be successful. And he walked onto that stage and he spoke for half an hour, and it was spellbinding. It blew him away, as only he could do. I took that as an instruction. So I said, I rang up Dr. Muhammad in Goa, India. I said, you don't know me, but I'm trying to fight cancer. Can I come and see you? And he said, of course, please come. So I got a rickshaw and I galloped out there. I hadn't had any sleep in all this time. I walked into this great big ashram and I said, can I see Dr. Muhammad? And they said, oh, he's busy at the moment. He says, what can I help you with? I said, I was told that there's a Dr. Neem and a Dr. Ashwagandha in this town that are curing people of cancer. You see, they gave me 6 months to live. So I've rushed all the way from Australia and I can't find them. But I thought Dr. Muhammad might be able to help me. And this guy was at the reception area in this marvelous place with a beautiful courtyard and trees and students and walking around reading and everything. It was just so blissful. And he burst into hysterics of laughter. He thought that was the funniest story he'd ever heard. Man, stop laughing. This is serious. He said, oh, my boy, there's no Dr. Neem. There is no Dr. Ashwagandha. But you're very, very close. You see that tree out there that everyone is sitting under, that big old tree? That's a neem tree. That's what we call the village pharmacy. It cures everything. You boil the roots, you eat the fruit, you crush the leaves, and all disease will leave your body. That tree at the back there, the other people are sitting under studying. That's the ashwagandha tree. It's the sister of the neem tree. The ashwagandha tree is the greatest adaptogenic herb in all of Ayurvedic medicine. When you have cancer or any disease, you must take the ashwagandha with the neem so your body will adapt to the crisis. He says, you were very close. Welcome. It's so bewildering that this extraordinary information arrived at 100 miles an hour and was given to me free of charge. They didn't ask for a dime. They gave me the answer. And I started taking the neem and the ashwagandha and started doing all the things with my diet and the detoxification. That was 24 and a half years ago. And here I am. And what I learnt from there and the other places that I then went to, over this extraordinary Celestine prophecy type journey that I went on, the same thing happened at each stop along this journey that I've been on this giant highway of life. These people that I was referred to or I discovered or heard about, and I would go there and pursue and sit at their feet, bow to them, carry their bags, do anything to listen to them. And I put together all the information and step by step. It took 6 years of continual work and application. I went from India and then went to northern India to Rajasthan and then to a marvelous town called Shimla, high up in the Himalayan mountains. And then I went into Pakistan to Hunzaland where no one gets cancer. I heard that. I said, I better go there. I'm looking, you see, what I did when I solved problems for these big companies, I always wanted to find out what's the common denominator. So if you're a detective trying to solve a serial killer type murder situation, what you're looking for is a common denominator. You put the common denominators together, you got a picture of the culprit, and you then just fill that in and you've solved the crime. That's what I was doing with myself. And I was looking continually for places where people didn't get cancer, lived forever, had unbounded health. And I heard about this place up there in Shimla, and I went there, and then they told me to go to Hunzaland where they have no hospitals because no one gets sick. They have no mental asylums because no one goes mad. They have no police force because no one does anything wrong. They live to 110, 120 years of age, blissfully happy. And so and all of a sudden, I'm picking up this common denominator, which I'll give to you today, that you can start adopting in yourself. It's what you have to take, and if you take that one thing alone out of all the things that I make and are available to you on our site that we've put together, and more things will be added in days and days to come, you have the crucial thing of giving to your body the things that God created you with, that you have to put back into your body every split second. And if you don't do that, disease will occur. The common denominator, because I went to Bhutan, I went from there, I went to Tibet, and I went from there, I went to Shanghai. I studied Chinese medicine, and then I went to Korea to an extraordinary Korean doctor who truly put it all together for me. She became my mentor. She was like she was 85 years of age. She was a Buddhist nun who had this amazing healing retreat. And she taught me all the things that I'd learnt and put it all and crystallized it. And she says, you were right going to Hunzaland. You were right to see what those people were doing there in Bhutan that were living disease-free. In Okinawa, where they lived to 120 as well. They all did one thing as the common denominator. They consumed enormous amounts of minerals and trace minerals, either from a spring or from the ocean or from an alpine lake. And they put their entire society around these minerals. And what I found out was that the minerals are the things that run everything in our life, electronically. And without those things, your body stops working and disease will occur. There's no way of getting around it. And what I found was that the body needs 84 minerals and trace minerals all together in a form called ionic. Not colloidal, not chelated. You've probably heard of those things. They're okay. They're 2 out of 10, not 10 out of 10 that ionic minerals are. And what I found was that the body is made up of factories. These are the organs in your body. Each organ, each factory is run by a foreman that tells the workers what to do. If the foreman doesn't turn up, the factory doesn't work, so disease will occur. Each organ in the body is run by a different mineral. Not by a vitamin, not by a fat, a protein, a carbohydrate. They're the workers. The foreman is always a mineral. The mineral comes in and then tells all the workers what to do. Your heart, that's a very important factory. The foreman of the heart is magnesium, working in combination with potassium. Potassium shrinks the heart, magnesium relaxes it electronically. That's a heartbeat. Now, you might be Michael Jordan, cardiovascular Olympic standard. But if Michael doesn't have enough magnesium, he'll have cardiac arrest, he'll drop dead. Very simple. It's essential to have those minerals because without that, the heart just doesn't work. Your thyroid, very important. Runs the entire endocrine system in the body. All the hormones, everything, operate from that. The foreman of the thyroid is iodine. If you haven't got enough iodine, your thyroid comes to a screeching halt with all of the problems that comes with. One of the big epidemics in our society is diabetes. Diabetes occurs because your body can't handle blood sugar. What's the factory that runs that? That's your pancreas. The pancreas makes the insulin that goes in there and converts and handles the sugar that comes from your consumption of food. Now, if you haven't got the foreman of the pancreas, you're going to get diabetes. That's why we've got an epidemic of it. Because there's no chromium in the modern American diet. None. That's why I think they should change the name of McDonald's to McDiabetes, because there's no chromium in a Big Mac. Yet our young people in particular are eating all this stuff, and what are they coming down with? We have an epidemic of diabetes in our youth, brought on by the fact that they're consuming food that's completely devoid of chromium. First thing I do with all my diabetes patients, I saturate them with chromium and with another mineral called vanadium. Vanadium, when you analyse the research upon it, which is done by a marvellous French scientist, he said in his scientific paper when he discovered vanadium that it has the capacity to duplicate every action of insulin in the body. I read that and I went, whoops. That means if I combine chromium at therapeutic levels with vanadium, I'm 99% of the way towards curing people of diabetes. If I then change their diet so that's not lousy and it's good, and I get them to exercise, and there's an old saying, by the way, in naturopathic medicine, that diabetes is a foot and mouth disease. There's lack of feet movement and the wrong stuff going in the mouth. If I can change what people eat, go on a diabetes prevention diet, and then get them to exercise, not just walking but also with weights, because when the muscles are active, they suck fuel out of the bloodstream, that's sugar. So the sugar levels come down. Kapow. I've had patients come to me because they heard what I was doing. They've turned up at presentations like this, and one time it was in San Diego, and the doctor came up to me and said, I've got a patient of mine in the back of the room. He can't come up here because he can't walk. He's in a wheelchair. He's 425 pounds body weight. He's got chronic diabetes, and they're going to amputate him up to the crutch next week because he's got gangrene. His lower body was the same colour as that, jet black. Richard Weaver. I sat down with Richard. He couldn't talk because the diaphragm was so impacted by the weight. He could just wheeze a word out. He said, do you think you can do something for me? I said, of course I can, but you've got to follow everything I say. You can't cherry pick my program, and it's going to be intense. He said, Doc, I'll do everything you tell me. He says, how much is this going to cost me? I said, it's going to cost you an awful lot, kid. It's going to cost you nothing. I'm going to do for you what all those people did for me that got me here in front of you. I'm going to treat you for free. Just do what I say. He couldn't believe it. He said, no. I said, you just do what I say, Richard. And I tell you, we're going to work really hard. Lo and behold, 6 months later, that man was able to get up and walk, and also got his pilot's license back and became a new person once again by following what I told him. I saturated him with the chromium and the vanadium. I found something when I was in India called Gymnema sylvestre that's amazing on diabetes. We did that. I put stuff into his pancreas, pancreatic enzymes from enzyme material from a pig that you put in there that has amazing effect. Not only, by the way, on diabetes, but also on cancer. And we rejuvenated his pancreas. We changed his diet, got him off junk food and margaritas all day long, made him exercise, and I beat him with a bamboo rod sometimes up and down that swimming pool at the YMCA in Simi Valley. I made sure, and the weight just fell off him. And he was a marvelous patient. But he saw death before him, like I did, and he didn't want to go ahead of schedule. I don't want any of you people to do that either. I want you to enjoy your potential to the greatest capacity that you've got. And I bet a lot of you have been experimenting with all kinds of formulas and so on and so forth, and they've probably been very good. But they're not at the breakthrough level of what we've got in these formulas here. And also, by the way, when you come into the shop to earth environment, not only do you get the formula, but you get me. Because you can write to me, you can call me, you can email me, and I'll get back to you. So I want to save the world. The old Korean doctor that really put it all together for me. She was so old, but she was like ageless. She was tiny, about this high, but she was a skyscraper high in her presence. And every time she opened her mouth, some giant piece of wisdom would come out, and I treasure that. She's passed away now, but gosh, she was just a marvelous woman. I became the son that she'd never been able to have, I think. And she called me grasshopper, and I would follow her around like a grasshopper, and I'd listen to every word she said. And when I was cured, and I want you to remember this, because this is what all these formulas are about. And that's what I'm about, and that's what our company is about, and I want you to take this piece of information because it's crucial that you adopt this philosophy. When I was about to leave Busan in Korea, I said, Kim, her name was Dr. Kim Suk. Dr. Kim, I said, I know I took everything. I think I've learned it all, but something else happened. How did this happen? I said, they gave me 6 months to live. They gave up on me. And here we are now, funnily enough, 6 years later, and I'm cured, and I just still can't get over it. Something happened. She said, oh, grasshopper, I've been waiting for you to ask this. She can read your mind, You have to understand, your body loves you. Your body will do anything for you. The greatest relationship you will have on this planet is with your body. It will never leave you. It will do anything for you. This is your present. That's how your spirit is able to exist upon this earth. If you love your body, that's when it becomes rejoiceful and so healthy. But if you abuse your body,